Twisted Metal landed on the PlayStation on November 5th, 1995, and was critically acclaimed by many game reviewers. Twisted Metal is a vehicular combat game where players go around in the selected vehicle of their choice and destroy others to win. Twisted Metal brought a lot of new and unique ideas into the vehicular combat genre and would go on to spawn sequels that would be exclusive to PlayStation systems. Since this is the first game in the series, it sometimes feels primitive to the sequels after it, due to the many simple mechanics missing from the sequels that make them great. Despite this, Twisted Metal 1 is still very fun to play, has a kick-ass soundtrack, and has those classic early PlayStation 1 game graphics. So without further ado, let's examine everything this 1995 title has to offer. Twisted Metal's gameplay is rather simple to understand. Pick a vehicle, drive around the map to collect weapons and missiles to use against opponents, recharge health in order to keep going, and avoid enemy fire so you can be the last vehicle standing. However, if the player wants to do good and pick off their opponents to move on to the next stage, they'll have to think about which weapons to use and how to get the most out of their vehicle they're using. Not to mention, each playthrough starts with 3 lives, and once they're gone, they cannot be attained again in the same playthrough. Players can, however, use a password to start a level again with 3 lives in their vehicle of choice, even if they didn't attain the password with the newly chosen car for their new playthrough. Passwords are great to have in this game, so players can easily get back into the level they left off if they decide to turn off their PlayStation, and they're simple and easy to put in as they're only 5 digits persisting of the PlayStation action buttons. The vehicles in this game range from small, easy to control but fragile in terms of defense, and big, pack a lot of damage but are hard to control. Speaking of the vehicles, let's analyze all of them. Sweet Tooth, an ice cream truck driven by a maniacal clown that can easily destroy any car with its napalm ice cream cones. Warthog, a military tank that can attack with more than just its equipped XQJ-27 missiles. Its highly advanced players can take advantage of Warthog's ability to ram into other vehicles without taking all too much damage, but packing quite a punch. Outlaw, a police car that has motor control, acceleration, and armor. Outlaw uses a huge taser equipped to the roof of his car that shocks contestants that get too close. Darkside, a huge truck that is hard to control, but will definitely take and deal a bunch of damage. Look out for his laser beam that comes from the fires of hell. Hammerhead, a monster truck that will crush anybody within its vicinity with its huge wheels. Stay away if you want to stay uncrushed. Yellow Jacket, a standard taxi that isn't that special, but don't underestimate it. Those Molotov cocktails it shoots are no joke, and will dent any vehicle it hits. Roadkill, a hot rod converted specifically to compete in the Twisted Metal contest. The steel rod on top isn't for show, that's Roadkill's special weapon, he is not afraid to use it either. Spectre, a ghostly car that uses its paranormal powers to its advantage. Mr. Grimm, an unknown entity that drives a motorcycle. As expected, it drives and controls very well, but can't take that much damage. Grimm fires the souls of the dead to his enemies that will scare opponents and decimate their vehicles. Crimson Fury, a sports car that has great control and an even better laser beam for dealing with contestants that dare to test it. Pit Viper, a small car that expunges glob to other vehicles to eat away at the metals that hold them together. Thumper, great control, good armor, and an amazing special attack that burns enemies. What more could you ask for? While some of these vehicles sound similar in terms of their specifications, each one feels different during gameplay, especially considering each character has a special attack unique to them. It adds variety to the gameplay, so the player isn't just playing with the same type of vehicle, just with different specials. They will have to figure out the best way to use their chosen vehicle. Another thing that adds variety to the gameplay is the stages. Stages range from close-quarter stadiums to a huge neighborhood with a lot of space to drive on. There's also referees and pedestrians for each level. Referees are NPCs that shoot the player's vehicle, and pedestrians are simply bystanders that don't do much. Both NPCs can be run over. Anyways, this makes the game fun to play as the player will be put into many different situations due to the unique environments and spaces. Players will face a new challenge for each level, whether it be looking for health or looking for the best place to fight, and the player's vehicle of choice will also depend on how they should go about tackling said challenge. Really, the only levels that feel similar are Warehouse District Warfare and River Park Rumble due to their city level design, but they still have many differences to make them feel like different levels and provide new gameplay. Now, let's move on to some of the weapons players can use to destroy their competitors. The aforementioned special weapons are different for every vehicle and act as the main thing players use to win each level. There are 4 types of missiles players can use. Fire missiles provide a moderate amount of damage and will have a decent amount of accuracy. Homing missiles have a greater amount of accuracy, but don't do as much as damage as fire missiles. Rear missiles shoot from behind the player's vehicle and are used to distance enemies that can't be seen. Freeze missiles freeze enemies in place. What a surprise. Power missiles don't have great accuracy, but will damage any vehicle it can hit. Now on to the other weapons. Spikes pull coals and tires and slow down anybody that drives over them temporarily. Proximity mines explode over those that roll over them. The rear attack shoots fire from the vehicles behind and burns those that dare to get close. There's also Turbo. Turbo isn't a weapon that can hurt other vehicles, but makes it easier to escape as it brings vehicles to their top speed in seconds. Players can also use catapults to get some air and oil slicks to spin out enemies. Each vehicle is also equipped with 2 machine guns on both sides, but they can't be held out for too long because they will overheat and will have to cool down before using them again. It's worth noting the player can only hold up to 30 weapons and a certain amount of specials according to their chosen vehicle. Now let's move on to the non-combat aspects of this game. If a player is low on health, they can enter a health station and replenish a portion of their health. There's usually 2 health stations in one level, and the player will have to wait to use a health station again once they've driven into it. Players can change their view by entering certain codes, these views being the cockpit view, chase car close view, and the chase car far view. It's things like these that really add to the personality of older games. They're small details that add up, and it becomes such a nice feature, or features. Twisted Metal also has a 2-player mode, where players can hand a controller over to their buddy, and whoever destroys the other vehicles first, wins. Pretty simple and fun. The 2-player mode has all the characters from the single-player mode, but the maps are sized down. The only thing is, players can't fight against NPCs in this mode, along with fighting with their friend. Twisted Metal also includes cheats that can be activated by inputting a code at the password screen. Cheats include invincibility, unlimited ammo, and an unlimited turbo, along with a helicopter view for the arena and rooftop level. They're pretty fun to play around with, and also could be used to completely annihilate minion. Twisted Metal was released in 1995, making it one of the PlayStation's earliest exclusive games, so it doesn't look that great compared to today's standards. A lot of PS1 games utilize fog to cover scenery that was ahead of the player in order for the game to look the best that it could. Twisted Metal doesn't use fog, the player can see everything in front of them, nothing's covered up. In return, some of the textures seem rough and rugged, and pixels can be seen sometimes. The color scheme is also rather dark, there's very few bright colors to line up the environment. I think it works here, as Twisted Metal can be seen as a rather dark game. It does after all take place in a world that allows for everyday people to participate in a national event where they kill others so they can get one wish. Despite the darkness, there are still bright colors to give liveliness to the game, just like a Sweet Tooth's ice cream truck in the Suburbia level. There's a good amount of detailing in levels, in the vehicles too. Just looking at the silhouettes of the vehicles, players can tell which vehicles are which. The only thing that's lackluster is the icons for the weapons. They're rather simple and don't have that much detail or charm to them. As long as they convey what they do just by how they look, it should be fine. For the most part they do. The menus for this game could use a bit more character. They're simple and efficient in communicating to the player what each option will do. Plain text over JPEGs isn't the most drawing way to present a game, but this was the first Twisted Metal game and one of the first PlayStation 1 games, so the kinks of the PlayStation 1 weren't fully optimized yet, so a super immersive menu didn't seem probable for the time. Players can look at the descriptions of the vehicle they want to choose to better understand the character that drives said vehicle or the specifications of the vehicle they are looking at. Each character description shows an image of the character, their name, and usually what they wish to earn after they win the Twisted Metal contest. Once a character is chosen, players are given a few options to change how the gameplay works and a play button to start the battle of becoming the best contestant. Before a battle starts, the name of the level is shown, along with the password with that level, and then the vehicles the player must fight against appear on the screen as well. It's a nice detail, and gives a heads up to players so they can prepare for who they have to battle against. Speaking of levels, let's talk about each one of them. The Arena, an underground coliseum where fans cheer as the vehicle or combat in front of them becomes more intense as the destruction and mayhem continues. This level is filled with designs of all the vehicles in the game, and players can destroy them to earn more weapons for their disposal. Warehouse District Warfare, a small district where players can hide behind buildings or chase their opponents in the small pockets in between the buildings to do some major damage. Freeway Free-for-All. This level is very narrow in that players cannot move to the left and right much. They'll find themselves going forwards and backwards a lot. There's weapons and detours all over the map waiting for the player to use to their advantage. River Park Rumble, a big old battleground where players can run rampant and drive wherever they like. I mentioned how this map is similar to Warehouse District in its design. However, things such as the bridge separating two areas of the map and more space ensure this level has its own uniqueness. Suburbia, a big suburbs complex filled with many different buildings and more than just one suburb to explore. Here's a highway players can utilize to travel to other parts of the map or to avoid conflict and preserve health. Rooftop Combat. The fight level takes place on the tallest skyscrapers of Los Angeles where one bad move can kill the player. Players will have to be wise with their movement to win this level. After the player destroys the first 3 cars, they are challenged by last year's Twisted Metal winner, Minion. After he's defeated, players are greeted with their character's ending. There's also a secret level known as Arena 2. Arena 2 is just the original arena level, but it's bigger and has more cars to fight against. Players can access this level by using the secret code in the password screen, or they can beat the game on hard, go back to the rooftops level, destroy the rooftop, and then go down it, and then they'll be greeted to the level itself. I forgot to mention, all these levels take place in Los Angeles, and as such, makes sense why they're very urban and open. The sound design in this game is well done, the sound effects are good, and the music is amazing. Twisted Metal takes advantage of being on a CD and uses MP3s for its music so it can be high quality. At least, for its time, it was high quality. The music is very energetic and fits the environment the characters play in. It's so good, players can listen to the whole soundtrack in the sound options menu. The majority of the soundtrack is rock and roll, but there are songs that have a more experimental approach, and even the main theme has a goth section in it as well. I don't have much else to say about the sound in this game. I feel like music could be heavier to really give the player adrenaline and make them feel more badass as they take out their enemies. Other than that, I don't have much to say.
You are the winner of my contest. I can grant anything you ask for, young lady.
Cut the formalities. I want my prize. Now you pay up, Calypso.
Strange. It says here, you are only asking for this. $1 million.
Cut from the game where FMV is showing Calypso granting the winning character's wish in live action. These were left out as the developers felt that they were too corny and not in the same vein as Twisted Metal. These FMVs would later appear in Twisted Metal Head-On for the PS2, along with other cut content from the series. The cutscenes are alright, I would have preferred them over the text endings on the actual game. Anyways, onto the issues. The referees in this game are very annoying and don't add much aside from frustration to the game. The player can shoot down and run over the referees, but it's more trouble than it's worth, as players have to worry about their health and their enemies. The referees have high accuracy and will most likely hit the player every time they pass by one. They just add unnecessary difficulty to the game. If they were left out, this game would have been a lot better. Second issue, NPCs and rear missiles. Now, it's okay for NPCs to use a weapon they could pick up in the game and use it against the player. However, completely spamming it and using on a map where rear missiles don't spawn is highly flawed. Why punish the player for following an enemy they're near to destroying? It goes against the goal of destroying all enemies and slows the gameplay. Twisted Metal is a fun game that gives a considerable amount of content to play around with and has a decent soundtrack to complete the mayhem happening on screen. The game has 2 issues that don't absolutely ruin the fun to be had, but can be distracting and harmful to the player's experience. Let's count up all this game has to offer. 12 vehicles that are all unique in gameplay, 7 fun battlegrounds that will keep players on their feet thinking of new strategies, a kick-ass soundtrack to give players adrenaline for blasting their enemies, a 2-player mode that's fun for what it's worth, 12 different endings that give insight to the characters, and tons of small details that add up to give Twisted Metal its own charm. Twisted Metal had a lot of potential as a game, but still has a lot of content to make it its own standout game. And with that, I thank you for playing Twisted Netzel.